This is bell work for Monday, November 13th. On number 1, it's asking us to use the quadratic formula to solve 7x squared plus 8x plus 1. And here I've written down the quadratic formula and how to use it in case you've forgotten. So what we do is we just plug in the numbers into the formula and we get an answer. So we'll start with negative b. So b is the 8. So we're going to get negative 8 plus or minus square root, and then there's the 8 again, 8 squared minus 4 times a. So a is going to be the 7. So minus 4 times 7, and then times c, which is the 1. So times 1. And that's going to be over 2 times a, so 2 times the 7. And then we just have to do the arithmetic. So we get, let's see, we'd get negative 8 plus or minus square root, and we'd do exponents first. So 8 squared is 64, 8 times 8. And then it's minus 4 times 7 times 1. And then it's over 2 times 7. Okay, and then we have to do whatever's underneath the radical next. And if we look, we have, first I'm just going to copy the negative 8. We have negative 8 plus or minus square root. We have multiplying and we have subtracting underneath the radicals. So multiplying comes before subtracting. So we'll do 64 minus 4 times 7, which is 28, times 1, which is still 28. So minus 28 over 2 times 7. I'll go ahead and do that. So 2 times 7 is 14. Okay, so now we do the subtracting part. We'll get negative 8 plus or minus square root of 64 minus 28, which is 36. And over 14, and then the square root of 36 is just 6, so we'll get negative 8 plus or minus 6 over 14. And here's where I split it into two problems. So we'll get negative 8 plus 6 over 14 and negative 8 minus 6 over 14. Okay, so we'll do the first one on the left over here. Negative 8 plus 6 is negative 2. We'll get negative 2 over 14. And negative 2 over 14 is going to be negative 1 over 7. So there's one of our solutions. And then the other one's going to be negative 8 minus 6, which is negative 14, over 14, which is negative 1. So our solutions are negative 1 over 7 and negative 1. On number 2, it's asking us to simplify the square root of 40. And it's important that you understand that simplify does not mean turn it into a decimal. So what we need to do is we need to find what's called an exact answer. So we're looking for an exact answer. Okay, to do that, I need to factor 40, and I'm looking for factors of 40 that are perfect squares. If I can find one, we can simplify it. If I can't find one, then it's already simplified. So let's think about 40 for a minute. What are some factors of 40? Well, we have 1 and 40. We're not going to worry about. We have 2 and 20. We have 4 and 10. We have 5 and 8. And that's all of them. So we'll look through this list and see if we can find any perfect squares. And I do. We find one perfect square, which is 40. It was 4 times 10 to make the 40. So that's what we're going to factor it into. So we're going to take it and we're going to split it into square root of 4 times the square root of 10. So sort of like this. Okay, and then if we look at the square root of 4, we know that's 2. So we can take that and we put it outside the radical, and we're going to end up with 2 times the square root of 10, and that's simplified. On number 3, it's asking us to solve 16 plus x squared is equal to 64, and it's saying find an exact, not a decimal solution. So to do this, we kind of do it like we did on number 2. Well, first we have to go ahead and solve for x, at least that far, and then we can simplify it. So we'll look at it. We'll have 16 we need to subtract from both sides. So we'll get, I'm just going to copy the problem down over here. We'll go ahead and subtract 16 from both sides, and we will get x squared is equal to 48. And then to solve that, you have to do square root on both sides. So we get square root of x squared, which is x, and the square root of 48. So we x is equal to square root of 48, and that we need to simplify. So think about 48, we have to factor it, just like we did on number 2. We have to factor it and look for perfect squares. So 1 times 48, which we don't need to write, we have 2 times, let's see, 24. I have 3 times 16. And then I have 4 times 12. And then I have 8 times 6, so 6 and 8. I'm going to rewrite this so it's not so squished together. So we get 2, 3, 4, 6, 8, 12, 16, and 24. Those are the factors of 48. Then you have 1 and 48, but if 48 was a perfect square, this would be easy, but it's not. So let's look at these factors and see if we can find any of these that are perfect squares. Well, I know 4 is a perfect square. I know that 16 is a perfect square. I want to use the largest perfect square I can get, which is going to be the 16. So when we do this, we're going to do x is equal to square root of 16 times, let's see, 16 times what is 48? 16 times 3 is 48. So we'll split it like that, and then the square root of 16 is 4, so we'll get x is equal to 4 times the square root of 3. And that's what's called the exact solution. On number 4, we have to find the slope, and what we're given is these results from a function. We have f of 2, which is -3, and f of -2 is 5. And this is just a different way of writing x and y. So the number you put into the function, the 2, is the x value, and the number you get out of the function is the y value. So what we have here are 2 ordered pairs. We have x is -2 on this one, and then we have y is 5 on this one. Okay, so what we're going to have is like this. We have 2 and -3 and -2 and 5. And then we just have to put that into our slope formula, which is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So you're just finding the change in the y over the change in the x. And let's go ahead and put those in. So y2 is 5, y1 is -3, and then we have x2, which is -2, and x1, which is 2. And we will get 5 minus the -3 is the same as 5 plus 3, so it's 8. And -2 minus 2 is -4. 8 over -4, so the slope is going to be -2. So that is a slope. On number 5, it's asking us to simplify -5 times -1, or w times w times w. Okay, so the way I like to do these is first I take care of the negatives and the positives, and to do that I just count. So, because it's all multiplying, we don't have any adding on here, so we're just going to count, and if we get an even number of negatives, the answer is going to be positive. If we get an odd number, then the answer is going to be negative. And then I don't have to worry about positive and negative after that. So we have one and one negative, and we have another negative. That's an even number. So our answer is going to be positive, and that's all I have to worry about for negatives. So our answer is going to be positive something. Okay, so then let's go ahead and multiply any coefficients together and constants. So I have -5, and that is the only coefficient or constant that I have, and that means it's going to be 5. And then we have, let's do the variables. So we have 3w, so it's w times w times w, which is w cubed. So our answer is going to be 5w cubed.